Hello there, Master Hellish here, and welcome to a Let's Build of the Riptide XV104 Battlesuit. Now this one's going to have magnets in it, and I'm just fast forwarding the unboxing here, otherwise it'd be quite slow and painful. So there's the two main parts. We've got some drone bases, a base, and instructions. Firstly, I'm going to take out a few bits and I start working on the legs. Now here you see I've cut the legs out of the sprue and I'm working on cleaning them up. Now I'm cutting towards my thumb with the knife. I don't recommend you do that. Find the way that it works for you and that is safe to do, and use a little file if necessary. You can get these sorts of files from tool shops and so forth, but I find them quite handy. And before actually gluing anything together, once it's all cleaned up, I try and fit it together without any glue, which is a good job there because I had the wrong piece. Now you see I've put the right piece in now, and yes, that kind of all fits together quite nicely. So once I've checked it to make sure all the bits are okay, I will put some glue in there. So checking that one, yeah, that one fits in okay as well. So what I do is I'll just take it apart after I've fixed it together without glue, and I will just put a spot of glue in there. I use a type of poly cement, but not too much glue, and then it'll be okay, and we'll pop it together. Now when I'm doing these parts of the legs, I did find that a few of the parts were very similar, especially the getting the upper and lower legs in the right position so that the model would stand correctly together. So I do recommend that you cut out and use the instructions for the legs on this, and cut out only the bits you need for the part you're working on at the time. If you cut everything out, it can be a little bit confusing between right and left. I mean, you can work it out, but you're better off just following the instructions bit by bit and not cutting everything all at once. Here I noticed that a little bit is still just sticking out of the plastic there from where it was cut from the mould, so I just revisit that with a little bit of file work. So there are the legs. The legs are made up. Like I said, if you follow the instructions, they're okay. Putting the feet on is a lot easier than on the XV8s or the XV88 Battlesuits. There is a one-way socket, and it actually fits in a lot better than the previous kind of ball and socket version on the other suit. So that one's a much more sturdier leg to foot join. So here, yeah, I'm just putting together the upper body. In goes one leg and in goes the other, and you can see that each leg had a little pin which went into the body. So body, that's actually the lower body, and the legs have little pins on that goes in the holes. And if you want to set the stance of your battlesuit in a different stance other than what it's set up to do, you need to cut the pins off before sticking the legs onto the lower body. So after sticking them onto the lower body, just a little bit of adjustment to make sure that the stance is right and it's flat on the base, and then it's time for the upper body. Right, so here we go, a bit more glue on the upper body. I'll dab it around there, not too much, that glue is so easy to overuse, and nice pressing firmly the parts together on the upper body. This part was quite easy to do, as was the lower body. So just taking the different parts off. There's a couple of plates that need to go on, therefore just trying them dry first, making sure they fit, and then sticking them on with some glue. And after those plates go on, there's just a couple of little extra bits that stick out that you need to just glue on. And this bit did take me a little while, and I wanted to show you all of the construction of the upper body, so I did fast forward this bit. But there we go, there's the upper body in. And now it's the side parts for the upper body. Now looking at the model, I'm not sure whether these were air intakes or something like that. They're certainly not they're not weapons, but they do look like sort of air intakes or engine type things. So and just a quick note on the battlesuit. Actually, once it's put together, I think it's really quite cool. I do like the look of it, but here you see I'm just trying to get these bits together. Luckily I had the right piece. Again, left and right, not obvious straight away. And this bit I'm putting in now, this little ball joint, I tried to make sure I got the symbol the right way around. Turns out that's where the arm goes on top of, so it doesn't really matter too much if it's the wrong way around, because you won't see it. But yeah, if the left and right parts on that bit are easier to do if you do the left first, cut the left off the sprue, do all the whole of the left, and then cut the right off. So here again, making sure it fits without any glue on. It's an important part of the process. I think it's a very good technique to test and try and make sure things are correct before you add the glue. And then I'm just popping some on the protrusion from the upper body there, and there we go. Give it a good squeeze as always. Hold it in place for a few seconds with this glue, and then it's stuck. So just pop the head on. I think there was a couple of different heads to choose from if I remember correctly on this one, but I went for the one that looked the most similar to the XV8 Battlesuits, because I just felt that it was a nice and standard thing to do. So gluing the lower part of the battlesuit onto the base. This is probably one of the areas where I use more glue than others. You have to get really good coverage to make sure that it's stuck to your base. Really give a good press down. And then the upper body. Now this has got a pin in it, in the ball, that goes into the socket with a hole. However, it's not at an angle like the leg ones. The leg ones have a key on it, so you can only put them in a certain way. This one has not got a key on it, so you can stick it in and rotate it around to how you like it. But there we go. So when it comes to the stancing of the model, out the box, yes, I'll just quickly mention all of that. The legs are fixed unless you modify them. The upper body you can rotate, and the arms you can rotate too, so you get a bit of flexibility there. There you saw me cutting out the jetpacks, cleaning it up now, again cutting towards myself, which I don't recommend, but it's what I do, and a little bit of glue to put them together. So they were quite easy to cut off, wasn't much cleaning up. Overall on this model I found there wasn't a lot of cleaning up to do. There wasn't a lot of mould lines to get rid of or anything like that. This part was a little bit more difficult than what I thought it was going to be. There is only a small tiny part of the other side, Adrian. There we go. There is only the other small part that actually attaches from the jetpack part to the main upper body. It's just that small circular bit. There's not a lot of contact and not a lot of gluing space to fix that on, but as long as you've got a good glue, you should be fine there. So here we go. I'm now moving on to the arms. So legs, upper and lower body, battlesuit, jetpacks on. So it's the arms that are next. Again, making sure everything fits nice and neatly together. Now, when I make the arms up, I suggest you make the top half of the arm and the lower half of the arm, but then not glue the lower to the top until you've decided on the pose. So don't glue the two sections of the arm together until you're working on sorting that out on the model. So here you are, there's the upper arm just being popped together, simple as that, and there's me just fitting the upper to lower without any glue, and it does actually hold together to a point. Now this bit, the shield, this is probably one of the more trickier parts, probably the trickiest part of the whole model. There is no exact place to slot something in. It doesn't tell you exactly where to do it. Now I wanted to show you me doing the whole shield here. It did take a while, so again, fast forwarding. And it took me a while to figure out exactly where things would be, because I couldn't see any points on the shield where these fins were to stick on. There's no exact. There's a rim all the way around the edge, and you can stick those fins anywhere along that rim. So I just copied the box art, had a good look at that, had a little look in the codex as well, and tried to gauge based on the lines on the outside of the shield whereabouts those fins should be. Now you can put them where you want, obviously, but I wanted them fairly similar to the standard model. And once you've got that in, it's not very fiddly, it's just working out exactly where you want them. So yeah, then glue that to the lower arm, glue the lower arm to the upper arm, and then try and get it all fixed in. Now depending what glue you'll use, you might need to do this bit in stages. You might need to put the arm on the model first, then stick the shield on once the arm's dried. With the glue that I'm using, with a little bit of positioning like I'm doing here, align it on its side, making sure everything's right. It just takes a couple of seconds of pressing, and there we go, the shield is on. Okay, so most of the model is built now. We've only got the other arm and the weapons to pop on, but of course magnetising sorts out a lot of things. Here you see me doing, I think it's called the heavy burst cannon. It's a massive burst cannon that goes on this model. It's new for this new codex, and there's 3 tube sections that have to have a part at either end. That was a little bit fiddly, but not too bad. And then that just sticks on the main body, as you saw me do there. And here I've left the right arm is not attached to the model yet, and that's so that I can check it against the weapons. And there's this little attachment there that I'm putting on and off that goes between the arm and the cannon. I'm sat there working out where I'm going to put the magnet to try and get that, because really I want to be able to put both weapons on. So having a good look, trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to do it, checking the other gun, checking where the arm fits on the upper and lower, and when I've decided more or less how it all goes together without any glue, on goes the glue for the arm, upper and lower all together, and I hold it against the gun and place it on the model, and then put the arm into shape there so I know where it's going to be. Then I did a little adjustment after that because I decided I want the arm bent slightly, but it's still the same sort of level, and there we go, that's the main part done. So, main part done, now we're moving on to magnets. You join me here as I've just very carefully drilled 2 holes in the underside of the arm. Now, you're going to see me now drilling the pairing holes, the holes that those go into one of the weapons. This is, I think, the iron cannon. Yes, so here I'm using a 3.5mm bit for 3mm diameter magnets. The magnets are 1mm deep, and I'll put a link in the description like I always do to the kind of magnets I'm using and also where I get my magnets from. I'm not saying it's the best place to get magnets from or where you should get them from, but it's where I get mine from. So I'm actually doing this just by eye. I didn't measure exactly where they wanted to be. I just looked and thought, well, that's about a few mil in from that edge, that's about a few mil over from there. Probably best advisable is to drill one part first and then measure it, and then measure it onto the lower part and try and get it close. It doesn't have to be perfect, as long as you've got a good little bit of overlap on the magnets. You don't have to have one perfectly sat on top of the other. So here I'm cutting out some green stuff, and I'm pushing it into the holes that were made previously. This is one of a few different methods I use. I use different methods depending on the situation of what I'm doing with what. There you saw me also change my blade. I always use a different blade on my knife or a different knife when handling green stuff, because it ruins it. So here I'm putting a magnet, and you can see I'm just placing that magnet and pushing it into the green stuff on top of the arm there. We've of course got the whole model upside down, so that is the underside of the arm that I'm pressing it into. And sorry for the quality of the video on the zoom in, but I really wanted to be able to show you that if you're viewing in high def and especially in full screen, you should be able to see what I'm doing okay there. And there we go. So it is as simple as just put green stuff in the little hole, not too much, just fill it slightly, push the magnet in. Once you've done that magnet, you have to put the other magnet in next to it and make sure it's the right way around. Now here, what I'm doing is I put a magnet on top of the magnet that I've already buried into the arm. I then use my blade here to lift that magnet off very gently without flipping it round or losing its polarity, and then I place that magnet into the hole which we've already filled with green stuff. So I know that that should be the right way round according to the arm. Now, if this is the first Riptide I'd done, and this is the first one of these kinds of weapons I'd done, so it didn't matter which way round I started with the polarity. With my XV8s, I always have a weapon with a magnet in it, and I use that as a master key. All the models follow that one weapon so that I can interchange them and the magnets attract correctly. So if I ever do a second Riptide, I will make sure that that one matches this one. So I'm just using a little bit of liquid green stuff here to help fill in a couple of cracks. As I said, there's a few different methods I use for putting the magnets together. I'm going to do a magnet special video at some point, but until then, there's a few different ways I include. Here's me again, just making sure I've got the polarity right off the attachment. That's the attachment, the little round circular aesthetic thing that goes on the side of the gun. I'm double checking I've got the magnet that's on my blade the right way round, and then I just turn it and slide it into the hole. So yes, the different methods I use, I either drill the hole out, then put super glue in and drop the magnet in and then cover with green stuff. I drill the hole out, put green stuff in the hole and then put the magnet in it and then cover it with green stuff. Or depending, sometimes I use liquid green stuff instead of green stuff to fill the hole, but I find very often if you're just using green stuff without any super glue, the magnets can actually be pulled out if the green stuff hasn't set properly, or if you haven't got enough green stuff over the top of the magnet. You don't want too much green stuff, you don't want to bury that magnet too deep, because the deeper it is, the less effective it is. Here you see me now doing the holes for the jetpack. So just to summarise on that last bit, probably the best technique overall is generally drill a hole, not too deep, bit of super glue, pop your magnet in and then cover it with a layer of green stuff. I would advise using the super glue, but it does depend on exactly what you're doing. Sometimes it's necessary, especially if you make a hole that's too big or too deep, or if you're drilling into a part that's hollow, then green stuff first, push your magnet in, maybe even take the magnet out, and then a little bit of super glue. So there you go, I've drilled a hole in the top of one of there, and what I will do is once I'm just checking to make sure I've got the polarity right on this magnet. Once I've got that right, I'll make sure and I'll drill the other holes. So you could put a magnet on the very top, or you could put a magnet on the slanty bit. It's really up to you. Now at this point my green stuff is dried enough for me to test the gun, so I just test the gun and I test the other one and they're fine, they're holding okay. So now zooming in to look at this top jetpack part, there's the hole, I filled it with green stuff. There's my masterpiece, my master weapon that I used. The magnet I was inserting was on the master weapon, and I pushed that into the green stuff and slid the master weapon away, and that's to ensure that that magnet I inserted there will be compatible with all the other battlesuits I have. So if I want to take a fusion blast off an XV8 and pop it on the top there, I don't think that's an option, but if I wanted to, it would stick, it'd be the right way round. Okay, so here you probably can't see, but it's tiny. I'm using a 1.5mm drill bit, and I'm just slowly boring into this little tiny support system. Now the good thing about this is that you don't have to drill in too far, because the magnets I use are a 1mm by 1mm. In this instance I did use liquid green stuff and then push the magnet into it, and as far as I'm aware that has held. So there's me popping the liquid green stuff in. You probably can't see, but I've got the magnets here in this little case, and there we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probably drop that magnet, and I'm going to put that, there it is, on the top of the jetpack there. Just get that piece out of the way. There it is. So I've just dropped it on top of the jetpack, and then the support system it needs to be in, I push onto the jetpack over the top of the magnet and then slide off, and that ensures that that magnet inside that support system is the right way around to attract the magnet in the jetpack. As you can see in the background there, I've got the twin-linked plasmas and the twin-linked fusion blasters. There's nothing too outrageously special about them. I did just cut a little bit of the inside of each one and green stuff them together, a little bit of filing to make sure the green stuff wasn't sticking out too much, and then I stuck a magnet in the bottom. So because there isn't enough parts to make them both up properly, there is a way you can do it, but it uses a lot of different parts that you need for the support systems as well. So there we go. Here I'm using a different technique to put the magnets in. Now these magnets are in the smart missile system pods that I'm putting together now. And what I just did there was I placed a magnet with some super glue inside it. I actually glued it to the inside surface, and that's because this plastic was relatively thin, and all it's got to do is just sit on top of the model. So here we go, I'm just tidying up now. So they have a magnet inside them. I didn't do any drilling, any green stuff, I just super glued a magnet to the bottom. And because they just sat on the top there, they stick enough. They're not as secure as the other parts, but you can still wave the model around like I did there and it won't fall off. And there we are, just testing the gun. The gun's on. And what I did for the little round thing, that one little magnet on either side there, that worked. And the arm is only magneted at one end. I think to try and magnet both ends would make it too difficult, the little pipe between the arm and the weapon. So I just put a magnet on one side, and then I put an additional magnet in the top of the right arm as well. So if I wanted to, I could put a support system or a weapon in. Okay, so last thing to finish off with is to make these shield missile drones, the new drones for the XV104 Battle Riptide. So just putting the flying base together, and these drones come together in a few parts, just making sure they're the right orientation. So top, middle, missile part, and then the bottom part, and that goes on. The only tricky bit here is the antenna. Don't use much glue. If you've got a good glue, you only need a tiny bit for these little antennas. I put too much on sometimes, and you end up with glue all over the top, and it makes a mess, and it's horrible. But there we go. So just showing you a few different combinations now of the finished thing. Support. They've got fusion blasters on the top of the arm there. Heavy burst cannon, a few support systems instead. And there we go. So if you've got any questions about this build, pop them in the comments. I will try and answer them for you. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.